It's pretty hot in here, right? And it's because of the topic. I know you're all here for a very hot topic. It's called tech transfer. Listen, my name is Lucien. I'm on a mission, like I usually say, to make the next big tech to come from Europe. Usually this is the moment that people start laughing, like, that's impossible, right? Because it comes from the US or China. And there are many reasons why it should not come from Europe. And one could be our challenge with tech transfer. So in the room, who actually knows what tech transfer is? Nobody knows tech transfer? Well, you all know. All right, so let's dive into that first. First, guys, thanks for being here. Let's have a round of introductions. Maybe the first one can explain tech transfer a little bit more. No, I'm just kidding. Who are you? And so what's your opinion on this sort of the situation around tech transfer?
Hello, I am Jonathan, CEO of a company called Materials Nexus. And what we do is to use AI to discover the next generation of materials. So you may know things like rare earths and these kind of things. And they're particularly challenging because they come from conflict areas and these kind of things. So we're using AI basically to find the next generation of materials. In terms of our journey, we kind of came out of the University of Cambridge. And so we had to go through the sort of licensing process of the IP to make sure that there was alignment between what the company is trying to do and what the university is trying to do. And they can often be mismatched. And so that was an interesting experience. In terms of where I think it's going to go, I think I don't know if anyone's read the Andrew Williamson report, which came out last year around sort of the spin-out in the UK, and a lot of it was around the equity percentages that universities take and managing that, and I think that is a real opportunity for universities in Europe to kind of really cement what they take as IP positions.
So what's your cap table looking like?
So at the moment, the university has around 2% of the company. So
right.
Yeah,
well
we're doing all right.
Yeah, well done. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rubina Singh. I'm a senior investment manager at Foresight, so my lead on deep tech, climate tech investments. And for those of you who might not be familiar, Foresight Ventures is a global tech investor. We invest everything from seed to Series A, around check size around 500,000 to up to 10 million. And we're part of Foresight Group, which is basically an investment manager with 12 billion in AUM, operating across Europe, USA, and Australia. And in terms of tech transfer, so for me, I think, well, when we look at why we're doing it to begin with, let's start with the problem. Right now, I think we're in the middle of multiple global crises. So global warming being one of the biggest challenges ever of our generation. And in food scarcity, water scarcity, there's lots of issues. And some of the solutions to those haven't quite been invented or are in university, and where groundbreaking research is there. So how do we take it out from university ecosystems and other labs and research areas and bring it out to the market so they can make that impact, help us address global challenges, but also help us generate outsized returns, which as an investor I'm interested in. So that is, I think, a role where tech transfer plays quite a big role. And looking forward more to the discussion, but I think there's quite a big opportunity if and when we do it right.
It's a big problem, it's a big opportunity. So what's your, let's say, your most sort of pronounced investment, largest investment in this space? So
in tech transfer?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
on deep tech. Yeah.
At Foresight, we've made several investments over the past year. So one of the most recent investments was basically a spin-out called Vipercore from a university of, no, not spin-out, but a company coming from Vipercore from University of Bristol, which is developing a new microprocessor technology, which can basically significantly improve application performance and thereby reduce the energy consumption as well. And then similarly, there are a few other companies in a portfolio that have come from the university ecosystem. So there's Living Optics, which is hyperspectral imaging, and quite a few others as well. And we continue to see quite a bit coming out.
Right, interesting. So we come from startup investment. We're moving on to the connection with universities. You're pretty close to the issue of tech transfer or the opportunity of tech transfer. Tell us who you are and what do you think of it?
Thank you very much. I hope everybody can hear me. Good afternoon. My name is Homayun Bakeri. I'm with the Entrepreneurs Fund of the Repsol Foundation. We're a tech accelerator, primarily focusing in the energy transition space. We've been doing it for about 13, 14 years now in Spain. We were pretty much the first one doing this in the energy transition space in Spain. And every year we get anywhere between 300 to 500 startups in the energy transition space, highly technological. We specialize on doing technological pilots in order to validate innovative technologies that we think that we can bring to market in a short period. Right? And to preempt the discussion you had, you were asking, what our position on deep tech is.
Yeah, what do you think?
From what we've seen, there's clearly three kinds of typologies. We see two of them because we're looking at startups, right? One are ones, young people. It's all a heroic model, right? They all come and they want to come up with something new. But it's the typology in the mature industries where everything's established, refineries, petrochemicals, material sector. They have a harder time because they have to enter a space that is already occupied by players that are, heavy hitters.
Incumbents.
Financial, And then you have the ones who come in spaces that are new, right? New spaces that are opening up and, on claimed territory, and in those places it's a very different dynamic in how they can come up. They're given more free play in order to develop their stuff. And then there's a third typology that we don't see. It's the big science, big money developments where you need, billions of dollars that come from governmental or big corporations. We can go into examples, but we don't really see those, of course, because of the nature of what we do.
All right. And are you involved in these three kind of streams, and which one is sort of the most effective?
Great question. I mean, of course, the big science. When I'm talking about big science, big innovations. You talk things like OpenAI, Moderna, things like that have had a history of billions of dollars going into them. A couple of decades of research in academia before you suddenly see these. But what we see, as I said, we have a passion about both because we are serious about the energy transition, decarbonization. This means that we have to find solutions for existing applications. I mean, we also, during COVID, when everything stopped, suddenly we realized our lifestyle is being threatened with the existing mature technologies, right? So we're passionate about finding innovations in that space, but it's very difficult, right? It's much more challenging, right? So people who come in, you see these, you admire them, right? They come in, and it's a guy who's worked in the industry usually, anywhere from 10 to 20 years. They have an idea, they want to enter the industry and change it in some way or the other. And we try to help them come up with a pilot, right? An application that can be tested in an industrial area, and then we try to help them convince big industrial players to adopt it.
Bring them to the next level.
So we like those guys very much, but they have a harder time, to be honest. Okay. And then there's ones who come into new spaces. I mean, if I give an example, let's say carbon dioxide capture or carbon dioxide conversion into something you can use, e-fuels, methanol, whatever, right? In that space, a lot of the science they do, it's not, it might be even 20th century chemistry, right? It's just that back then nobody had interest in it, right? Because we were happy with our, normal fossil fuel industries and whatever else industries, so they have a lot of space to explore with existing technologies, right? And there's a lot of innovation. There young people can come in, a group of 5 people, do experiments in a lab in a university and then start a startup, and they're viable, right? And the main problem for these guys is always the scaling, right? So you find the lab prototype, it's working, and there the challenge is the scaling. Not finding something new, but scaling it to something that could be used in an industrial setting.
Yeah, I think we can dive into some challenges around that one.
Yes.
About scaling it up. So, then you have your great invention or research, and you want to make a company out of this, and then you have to maybe raise money or things like that. Who are you going to call?
Sorry?
Who are you going to call? You, right?
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So,
tell us what you do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon to everybody, and thank you for attending this session. My name is César Esper. I am partner of Haso. Haso is a law firm here in Spain, one of the biggest law firms in Spain. I am the co-manager of the innovative business and venture capital department, and specifically I manage the tech transfer operations in the law firm. I have a broad experience in tech transfer, and I want to share my opinion regarding what's the situation here in Spain. I am going to talk about the Spain market because it's the market I knew. I want to tell about some data, special data. Spain is one of the biggest producers of scientific publications. Spain produces almost the 4% of the scientific production in the world, and in Spanish universities produce the 60% of the scientific publications. So we can conclude with this information that Spain is the Spanish university are a huge research, a huge source of R&D results in order for the private companies to go to the public institutions in order to purchase or in order to sign collaboration agreements in order to develop the R&D departments of the private companies. But the fact is that it's not. The data says that the private market here in Spain goes to the private companies in order to buy, in order to purchase the R&D solutions, the R&D results. And also the 10% of the R&D is purchased through the universities. So something is not, I think in my opinion, that something is not working properly.
All right.
So I have some ideas. What are the shortcomings that affect the tech transfer offices in order not to be more efficient? And I think the government has to improve and has to invest more money in the tech transfer offices in order to achieve its goals. That is the tech transfer.
Right. So that's nice. We're going to move into solutions already a little bit. So it's basically like funding the tech transfer offices better, for example.
Of course.
But let's talk first about those offices. Do they actually work well?
They will work. They will work. They have excellent professionals inside, but they don't have enough resources in order to achieve its goals.
Just people, or?
It's money, it's people, it's skills. They need wider skills, broader skills, like the staff that works in the technology transfer office should know about technology. They have to know the research. They have to know the research in order to public or to introduce the public research in the market. Right. But also they need to know skills in legal aspect, in financial aspect, because the researchers are public servants that they need.
You're basically saying they're under-resourced.
Sorry?
Under-resourced,
yeah,
understaffed.
Yeah, under-resourced.
Right?
Yeah.
So that will be one of the issues. So do you agree? Is this the biggest issue? Because I would say tech transfer is probably, well, it's not known by many, but it's probably the most important thing for success, but also like changing the way how we live, work, whatever, right? So you're changing the world. What was the biggest issue for you in the space of tech transfer? And what do you propose how to solve this?
So I think in the UK ecosystem, there's really two challenges. The first is speed. And you need to, if you're going to build a world-beating company, as you were saying, how do you build the next unicorn big tech company from Europe? European institutions in general act too slowly, whether it be licensing agreements compared to the United States. So, in MIT, they have standard processes for how long things should take, what the offer is in terms of what the universities get,
the deal,
what the company's going to do. But as I mentioned, Andrew Williamson did this great report, which was commissioned by the Treasury in the UK. And if that is followed, I think that we will get to a much better environment. And then the second problem is around funding. The UK has a great ecosystem, and I know Spain has great tax incentives in terms of getting deductibles when you invest into risky companies. I think what we've not got is the sort of later stage, more Series B style, and unlocking pension funds. And I think that will enable some of the things we were saying before around financing. So if you can get 10, 20, 100 million deals away in Europe with large kind of pension fund kind of style assets.
Do you already feel that happening? Because we know in several countries, my own countries, the Netherlands, but we hear from Spain, from France, Sweden, that there's sort of more money being allocated through semi-government funds to deep tech. Do you experience that?
Yeah, definitely. And in the UK, we've got the British Business Bank, British Patient Capital, National Security Infrastructure Fund, and more funds coming. There's also the Pension Reforms Act, which happened last year, put into legislation. I think the challenge is, again, the speed question. It's like, how quickly is this happening? And
It's a speed question.
So, AI is coming, right?
But we always. I travel around Europe, like discussing this topic of how well countries are doing in terms of producing big tech. They all point at each other as being the best country. But I think you think you're lucky being from the UK, or not?
Yeah, I think the UK is a great ecosystem. It has a lot going for it. There are some drawbacks.
But still, it's not good enough compared to.
I think everyone compares themselves to the United States. And I think when you look at Europe as a bloc, we do not do as well on the kind of raw metrics. And I think we should sort of set ourselves a target as to that's what we should be doing, and that's what we should be aiming for.
Yeah, agree. Well, and I know you have a positive outlook on the future of this. So how do you look at this?
Yeah, so well, on this, I'll completely agree on the speed question, but at the same time, what's happening in the UK, again, bringing a UK perspective here, is that we've seen, because again, with the UK, the university system's quite spread out. The focus more traditionally had been on the Golden Triangle, so Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, but we're seeing the emergence of new funds, so Northern Gridstone focusing on the northern, covering all the universities in the north. And if I understand correctly, I think the idea is that most of the tech transfer aspects would go through them. And then similarly, on the western side, the Western Mindforge coming up. So there are funds coming up to do that. I think the other aspect with tech transfer is also visibility. So some of the university ecosystems are just so big that even tech transfer doesn't have visibility, and this might be, to your point on resourcing, of everything. So often you have to go to the different departments to actually try and see what is that new innovative, groundbreaking technologies coming through. And sometimes we see startups just bypassing that and coming. So there are aspects on there. But at the same time, what I'm also seeing is like actually a lot of investors coming over from the US. I think there is this realization that we have an incredible amount of research base here. We have great technologies, great labs. Let's just speed it up. Let's improve it, and let's really leverage and tap into that potential. I think it's still highly untapped, but I think things are speeding up from my point of view.
Yeah, and you're pushing for that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's very good. So, Repsol, in terms of accelerated programs in Spain, do you think that's sort of the best program in Europe, or do you look around in Europe going like, hey, there are other programs like this, or there should be more programs like this in Europe, because it would be beneficial to all?
You mean accelerators in Europe?
Yeah, no, like what you're doing,
and
the formula.
I didn't understand the question, sorry.
Sorry?
I didn't understand the question.
Oh, sorry. So you're running these programs, the support, like for transferring this technology, but you're doing this here in Spain, right? So do you look outside Spain, like how others are doing this, and how do you compare? Are you basically the best in Europe?
That's a good question. So if I say the best, I'm sure I'm going to come out with some newspapers that these arrogant guys at the Repsol Foundation. No, we don't think we're the best, but I think we do it right for what the environment is in Spain. Okay?
Yeah, and do you think? But do you also think that there needs to be something like working together in Europe?
Yes.
Or do we do this per country?
So of course, Spain, each country has its own dynamics, right? And Cesar, as Cesar said, there's a lot of scientific publications in Spain, for example, right? So there's a lot of scientific talent here. We see a lot of potential proposition coming from Spain. In the last 10 years, we see an increase in the number and quality of the Spanish startups. But we also look all over Europe. Essentially, we look at the European Economic Area. Okay, so they can come from the north of Europe, they can come from the Mediterranean area.
Sure.
And what we really look for, I mean, the main criteria is not a national criteria, but it is that the applications should really propose something that is innovative in the space they're moving in, right? And, previously I mentioned that we see two typologies, right? The ones in mature industries, the one in new industries, but the ones who succeed do have something in common when you go up the funnel, right? And it's a little bit related to what Cesar said. So a lot of these academic ones who come, if they've spent their lifetime working only on the science, right? I mean, the transition to a startup mentality is not the easiest, right? So the ones who succeed manage to realize that, they have their CTO and they bring in a young CEO or whatever age, right? But a CEO that has experience in moving in the startup world. And they really make an effort to know their clients, the potential clients, okay? Because technology working is not enough. You have to find your clients. Are they going to be able to, are they going to be interested in paying for it? Find your investors, so they're very well networked in the investor community of their country. Spain is going to have a different investor ecosystem than, let's say, the UK, for example, right? But they have to know that network. And then also, circling back to the support for research tech transfer, and they're very well aware of what are the resources available at the European Union level, of the kinds of supports you get for science, or what we call deep tech today. Yeah, and the ones who succeed have all those three covered. After the scientific, proposition, they have this stuff also covered.
Right.
Otherwise, they don't go forward.
Thanks. Yeah. So you told me earlier you're a specialist on Spain.
Yeah.
Right. So is it rather difficult? You think here in Spain?
It's rather
particularly?
difficult. Not particularly because I am not aware about how it's in the other countries. But according to my experience, it's a little difficult to deal with the public institutions because they need to be more professional. They need to be a long way point of view, because when you deal with the public servant or the technology transfer officers, they want to protect its technology. They think that you are cheating them, and they are not used to deal with private companies, and also they want to earn money very quick. And we are talking about deep tech. Deep tech is another thing. Deep tech needs a lot of investment. They need, it's not like a startup, like a software that in 5 years you can get the exit. No, in deep tech, in Spain at least, you need at least 10 years in order to have a product in the market. Yeah. And the universities need to know this scenario, and they should to understand that they have to leave the private company to develop the project, and don't disturb. This is okay. They are partners because in a spin-off the university is a partner. The researcher is happy because he can continues its works in the university and also works for the private company. And at the end, once the product is in the market and the company is going to sell or is going to have an exit, the university is going to recover all the investment and it's to gain money. So
in the long-term future.
In the long-term future, yes, this is. So I think we need to put in contact all the players in the tech transfer. I mean, researchers, university, government, investment funds, VCs, and companies. And
you need a big group.
Yes, you need a big group, and every house have to know the problems of the others in order to improve.
It sounds to me this is an educational problem.
Yeah,
you need to teach.
Yes,
right?
We need to teach. Yes.
Right. 2 minutes. You each got half a minute to tell me your ambition, like how we're going to improve the situation. Anyone who wants to go first? I'm not going to put you on the spot.
I can go first. I just think we need a lot more cross-sector collaboration. Universities, investors, but also startups, industry, just really working together to make deep tech bigger and better.
All right. Ambitions? Go ahead.
Okay. I think technology transfer has to be one of the strategic points of the governments. All of
strategic point of the government.
Yes, that's it.
I think that's enough. That's period.
Sorry?
That's a very good one. That's
no, it's not, but it's my point, because I think all the government invest in the science has a result in the society.
Yeah.
There are a lot of benefits from tech transfer technology, a lot of benefits for the researchers, for the society, for the patients. Sorry. Yeah. So I think we have to bet for tech transfer.
The focal point in strategy of governments. Any of you two, ambition?
I think just standardization of the deal terms. I think that will have a huge
deal
impact.
Terms.
Yes, the standardization.
Everywhere, better deal terms. And last but not least, maybe.
Sure. I think at the very latest, by COVID, we realized that science is important, right? It is, in many ways, it saved our lifestyle, right? And so I think, both at the governmental level and at the societal level, there must be a realization that a lot of the innovations we need needs a scientific background. And there's differences. There's digital, and a lot of the digital stuff is not, some of it is deep tech, other is just implementation, creative, but implementation, right? But the energy transition we're talking about, the changes we need for decarbonization needs new technology, and that needs the union, I second my colleagues here, between governmental support, universities, and companies. And all have to be more creative in order to find a flexible.
Sounds very collaborative. Thank you very much. I'll leave you all with letting you know that without technology transfer, you would not have companies like Apple. You would not be using your iPhone over there, right? So remember that. Thank you very much, and thank you for listening.